hardware running only a Linux kernel isn't very useful to most people. So we'll need to use software that lets us use the computer for doing whatever we need to do. Linux distributions come with a set of tools that let users and software interact with the system. And these tools often include a software package called the GNU Core Utils, short for Core Utilities. Many of these core utils are commands that we'll commonly use when working in a shell, including commands to copy and move files, to change permissions and security contexts, to view some status information, and so on. Humans use these at the command line, and scripts and other programs can use them as well to perform basic tasks. We can add other software later, but out of the box, so to speak, a basic Linux installation will have these standard tools available, which give us a minimal operating set of utilities and which are needed in order to customize the system, use it to get work done, and even to install and manage other software. This slide shows the core utils that are part of the Ubuntu desktop installation. You don't need to write them down or anything like that. I just want to give you a look at how many there are. I've highlighted some commonly used commands, like cat, which we use to display file contents, cp, which is for copying files, df and du, which show information about how much space is used up on the file system, and more. My course, Learning Linux Command Line, covers some of these common commands, the ones that are useful every day and which a command line user should work to memorize. The core utils also include commands that many people will use less frequently, if ever. Some of them are legacy commands that are expected to be available for historical reasons, and some are for very specific tasks that most Linux users, and certainly most Linux learners, won't need to use. I've been using Linux for almost 20 years, and I'd never used some of these. Generally speaking, if you have a Linux distribution installed, you don't need to worry about installing these tools yourself. They're just there in the box alongside the kernel and other supporting software that distribution maintainers build in for us. And if you're going to be using desktop environment and not a shell in a terminal or console, you don't need to worry about these at all. While most distros use the GNU Core Utils, some use a different set of tools called BusyBox. It's an alternative to GNU Core Utils, and it's often found in small or embedded systems. What makes BusyBox interesting is that it's a single program, which offers many of the functions of common Core Utils tools. It also offers a wide array of other tools as well. This shows the commands that BusyBox offers, and again, I don't intend for you to write them down or even remember them. The point is to show how much supporting software we get from this one package. Here, I've highlighted the BusyBox commands which overlap with the core utils. The others are implementations of other common tools, or are features offered by shells and things like that. The point here is that while the Linux kernel itself can interact with a huge amount of hardware and provides an enormous amount of functions that software can hook into, much of what makes Linux a flexible, consistent, and widespread operating system is the tools that accompany the kernel in a distribution. Whether you're using a system with GNU Core Utils or BusyBox, you can rely on having common, basic, familiar command line tools at your disposal. When you reach for the command to copy a file from one place to another, for example, it's the same on all Linux systems. It works pretty much the same, and it has the same name. This common foundation of software makes it easier to switch between distros, because these commands are available nearly everywhere within the Linux world.